Hello, everyone. I just want to say if you hear grunting or little baby cries, I apologize. I have the new baby with me here, so don't be alarmed. um, so, the song I chose to do my speech about was Stand By Your Man by Tammy Wynette, which she wrote in 68 and released in 69. I think part of the reason I chose this song is because I feel like it's one that everyone has heard, like in movies or while the credits roll and stuff like that, but not one that we really know anything about, especially people my age. I mean, 69 was a really long time ago for someone to be in their prime at that. So that's definitely not, an artist that just everyone my age is listening to. However, I think there's a lot that can be taken from it. Tammy Wynette, when the song came out, there was an uprising at the time of women all over the country who were essentially tired of being pressured to be homemakers rather than getting careers, pressured to have children, even if maybe that's not really what they wanted to do. Definitely not being able to be open if they were not heterosexual. I mean, you name it. Voting, women voting was like still a pretty new thing. Like, it was just so different from how we live now. There were so many, women's rights. Now it's like those are human rights. We know that is just basic. It's basic for us to feel like we're equal to men, and even with today's struggles, it's still nothing like it was back then. So all over the country there was an uprising of women really trying to find their voice. Tammy Wynette comes out with a song called Stand By Your Man. Stand By Your Man really gives you the feeling of almost that Tammy is kind of saying that women in some way are like smarter than men, or like that we need to understand that they're just men. They're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna do the wrong things. Sometimes we're not gonna understand why they're doing what they're doing. And that we just need to forgive them if we love them and stay with them and be proud of them and, never talk bad about them. And, it gives this very like old school vibe to it is old school, but it really gives off this old school vibe to the song of like, no matter what you do, I'm here and I'm your wife kind of thing. As you can imagine, with the uprising of women's rights at the time, this did not go over well with many women. Tammy did make statements about that, saying basically, I'm not a feminist, but I'm not anti-feminist either. That's not why I came out with the song. The song resonated with me because, I appreciate small luxuries given to me as a woman that simply aren't given to men. She says, like, having my cigarette lit for me or a door opened for me is not something I'm willing to sacrifice. She wasn't super strong either way on the feminist or anti-feminist wagon. But it was not taken well by feminists at the time. Hillary Clinton was a very active politician at the time and actually spoke with CBS on 60 Minutes and specifically addressed the song and its content and said, I'm not just a little woman standing by her man like Tammy Wynette. So she was definitely being criticized for the song and its content at the time by other women. In my opinion, that's probably it's good to voice your opinion. It's good to be brave enough to say when you disagree with somebody in a respectful way, of course. I don't know that it always was necessarily respectful at that time. Some of the feedback seemed pretty harsh to me from what I found towards Tammy Wynette for the song's content. And I just don't think that, uh, I just don't think like one woman criticizing another woman for their lifestyle choices is ever going to be the answer or the end all to problems that women endure. So personally, I don't think that that was productive. However, emotions get in the way for people during heated topics and things like that. So, so Tammy comes out with this song. She gets all this heat, but even more than she got heat, this song was crazy, crazy successful. And that's what I thought was so cool, was that it was number one on country radio of her time for 3 weeks. Then it was listed number one by CMT out of country's 100 top greatest songs, and then it even crossed over into the pop charts. From what I saw back in the time when it came out of 69, it crossed over into the pop charts of America and remained in the top, I believe, as 19, song number 19 for 3 weeks. It peaked for number one in the UK when the song was finally released in the UK. So just as much as the song was chastised, it was also loved. And I think that just like with anything else, where there is success or triumph, there has to be some kind of battle as well. And anything that is emotionally evoking emotions of any kind is going to do that in both ways, both good and bad. So I thought that that was really interesting to see that this song held so many people's attention at that time. And it wasn't just, a great song that people just loved and they listened to and danced to. This was a song that crossed over into political conversations and, real world issues at the time, into those bigger conversations and questions about what we should or shouldn't be promoting and whether that was happening with this song or not. I thought that it was very interesting that the song's content was that emotionally striking for so many people. And I think that personally that yes, like it is that important of a song. I think it deserves its place right where it's at. I think it's a classic and it deserves to stay that way always. I do think that music like this can be lost over time, obviously, as generations go on, but ultimately, what I would like to say is that at the time of all this was happening at the time, it was very hot for a reason. It was a hot discussion for a reason. I think that we can translate that to generations below us and keep sharing old music like this song, and it can really give younger generations an idea of what we can be grateful for and how things have changed. And it can also give us an idea of maybe things that older generations had figured out that maybe we've lost or we want to try to rekindle for our generation. Because nobody knows everything. One generation can have one thing figured out, such as, devotion and how to stay in a relationship, how to stay at the same job, how to work really, really hard for what you have. One generation might have that figured out, while the next generation figures out the fact that, women are equals and that everybody deserves equal rights, and that, and at the core of everything, humans are just humans, and we're all kind of just looking for the same thing. And so our generation has really learned how to tear down walls, I would like to believe, and that we judge less because we know better that people are all the same. So, but there's still something we can take away from the older generations, I believe. These things can be learned through music and stories. And I watched my grandparents grow up, and they had that very traditional old school love where, my grandpa was a man's man and my grandma was a stay-at-home mom, and she loved him very much, and I've never heard her speak a bad word about my grandpa, even when I knew she was upset with him. There's something that we can learn from that, and something that could benefit our marriages today, with a little bit of that mindset. And a little goes a long way in that way, and this kind of music really carries that still. And so I think it's worth passing on and trying to keep around, and it's worth realizing, wow, at that time things must have been really different, because this music really caused a huge ruckus at that time because of what was going on, and just being grateful for how far we've come. So that's what I would like to share about this song, and what really was running through my mind as I was listening to it, and as I learned a little bit more about the backstory about Tammy Wynette, and when the song came out, and why it was such a big deal. And I strongly suggest, if you have never heard the song Stand By Your Man by Tammy Wynette, if you have only heard it as the credits are rolling or on a commercial, I strongly suggest that you sit down and actually listen to the words, and just really how Tammy emotes through the whole thing, to find your own little appreciation of it. So that is all from me on that song. Thank you.